I am a queer man, or I was a young queer boy in a time when heterosexuality was incredibly narrow. Shuggie Bain is a book that looks at many voices who are going through the 1980s in Glasgow underneath the Thatcher government. I always say to readers that you should look at the work as a work of fiction. However, I grew up in very similar circumstances to Shuggie. I was raised on government benefits. I was as poor as Shuggie. I am the youngest son of a single mother, and my own mother suffered with alcoholism my entire childhood until I lost her one day when I was 16 years old. Looking back, it was incredibly strange because it started for me when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and at that time we all are just children. You know, there is no notion of, I think, sexual desire or gender. We just like the things we like and we don't like the things we don't like. We are just these balls of energy. But it started for me when I was about 6 years old, and it was the other boys who noticed that I was an effeminate little boy, that I was sensitive and I liked things that only girls were supposed to like. I loved skipping rope, I loved playing with dolls. They just, you know, it made me really happy. And when the other boys noticed that, they said, "What's wrong with you?" You know, it was, in a funny way, the homophobia was almost a misogyny, because it was about the feminine parts of me that they didn't like. And as soon as that happened, it just really built throughout my childhood, and it stayed with me for about 10 years. The homophobia I suffered as a young man, I didn't ever tell my family about, because it seemed so all surrounding. Society, not just in Scotland, I think in most of the world, was incredibly homophobic. And I was so fearful that if I told my family I was suffering with this, that they would also reject me, that they wouldn't love me either. And so I kept it to myself for all of my childhood. But it also sowed a lot of self-hate within myself. A lot of my journey as an adult has been to be okay with myself, to really learn how to love myself. Because one of the things about homophobia when I was a kid is people would say, "Why are you like that? What is wrong with you?" And so it gave you the notion that there was something you could do to change, that perhaps if you were better at football, perhaps if you tried to fall in love with girls, that somehow you would be a different type of man. And of course, none of us should or can change in that way. We are who we are. I had to finish high school, I had to find somewhere to live, I had to pay my own rent. But once I had sort of had that little bit of independence, and at 16, you know, I'm living in a rented room, I'm doing all these other things, I think to myself, well, you know, I am independent, I am my own person. And so that's when I told the rest of my family that I was queer. You know, it was difficult at first, but now I'm really pleased to say I have an incredibly supportive family. And so it was such a relief for me to finally be honest about who I was as a man. Has come an awful long way since I was a young man, and I'm really happy to see that. I'm very proud of Scotland. But I'm always concerned about the people who might be feeling left behind. I think oftentimes in big cities or in very liberal places, we think progress is happening at the same speed and it's happening for everyone. But the truth is I think there's many people who still feel left behind. Sometimes that can be because they live in poverty or because they don't live near a cultural hub. And actually, I'm reminded of that all the time because one of the most important charities I support is the Ali Forney Centre in New York, which is set up entirely to support LGBTQ youths who are thrown out of their homes when they come out. They're made homeless by their parents. And if that is happening in a city like New York, you know it is still happening everywhere else. I am the happiest I've ever been in my life, so I feel very content with who I am. And in fact, you know, I have been in a relationship for 25 years. We're about to celebrate our silver anniversary. And as a young boy, I would never have imagined that would be possible for me, that I would find love in that way and that I would be able to grow within that love. And so I'm incredibly happy with who I am.